All right, let's pivot on over to the one that I think I've gotten messages about the most, and obviously it's Saquon Barkley, running back for the New York Giants, tears his ACL, out for the year. And this is one that I've had a lot of people that are friends of mine that are like, yo, I don't really listen to your show. I watch all the clips. I show love. I support. But I'm definitely curious to hear your thoughts on this one. So, first and foremost, I want to mention that I think he got hurt on the Fuller tackle before the Eddie Jackson incident.
Mm.
They said it was his hand, but that kind of smelled ACL-ish. I don't even think that's a word or a term, but I just created it because,
It is
I'm an
now.
innovator. So first of all, I think he got hurt there. Second of all, I saw Eddie Jackson go to Twitter and be like, yo, I didn't want to hurt him and whatnot. It's like, dude, Eddie Jackson, I know you're listening. That wasn't even malicious, bro. You've seen people get hurt on non-contact. I tore my ACL just running out of bounds playing flag football. It's like one of those, like, I went to play and my knee just gave out.
Yep.
So it's those injuries that you've seen a lot. Iman Shumpert way back on the Knicks, just like dribbling the ball up,
Wow.
did a crossover and just blew his knee out. Like, it happens. You just don't land correctly. So in regards to Saquon Barkley, it was the number one thing that could not happen to this franchise for many reasons. Many reasons. And I've been on record saying this from the beginning. I was not happy when they took Saquon number 2. I'm in the camp of, you don't need to draft running backs that high. You could find running backs off the street. You could find running backs later in drafts. That does not mean that Saquon Barkley is not fantastic. I want to preface that, because people are like, yo, now you like it. It's like, bro, I didn't dislike Saquon from the beginning. I just, at the time, when you look at where the Giants were, and they still are, because for as much as I love Daniel Jones, there's sometimes he looks like he's a top 5 quarterback, and there's other times it's like, yo, this guy's gonna be in the XFL. Like, it seems to be a lot more XFL shit than good shit. So bear with me, because I'm gonna be rambling. I got a lot to get off my
Go
chest.
off.
The thing with Saquon Barkley is, at the time when the Giants did that, they needed a quarterback, right? And there was a very rich quarterback class. And I feel a little bit better because I wanted Josh Rosen. He's on a practice squad. I wanted Sam Darnold. He's damaged goods now, and he's a dumpster fire as well. The only one you can make an argument for was Lamar Jackson, and I didn't really think Lamar Jackson was going to pan out into this. I didn't think he was a wide receiver, but I didn't think that he was going to pan out to be as good as he is now.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, the Giants have lost the most games in the NFL since 2017, and that includes a Cleveland Brown team that went 0-16. That includes the laughing stock that the Jets have been and the Raiders have been and some of these other teams have been. The Giants are just as bad. The worst thing that has happened to the Giants since winning their last Super Bowl in 2011 is the 2016 11-5 year, because that was in the middle of a lot of 6-10s, a lot of just bad football, beating up on bad teams, 0-5, 2-7 starts. So what 2016 was a Band-Aid on the shitstorm that was the New York Giants organization from top to bottom. 4 coaches in the last 6 years, multiple offensive coordinators, a lot of coordinators being promoted to head coaches that were not head coaches. And for every one good decision that a GM would make, there's 7 bad ones. It's contracts that are too big. It's draft picks that don't make sense. It's letting go of talented guys after you pay them. You pay Odell Beckham, you extend them. You pay $26 million of the first part of his guaranteed money, and then you trade him away the first year he goes to Cleveland. He's basically on the Giants tab. The Giants have been a mess for a very, very long time, and it starts at the top, because I think the Maras and the Tisch family, for as great as they were, and dude, tell me now, bro. Tell me if I'm wrong. Not that long ago, it was the Packers, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Seahawks. The Giants were in that mix of like, yo, a team that drafts well, good organization, good infrastructure. As someone that's in Wisconsin, how was it? Am I wrong on that? Do I have goggles on? How was how were the Giants perceived back then?
No, you're not wrong at all. There's a couple teams that, even being not in the division, whether usually in the NFC, that I mean, I won't lie to you, I never wanted to see the Giants do well. Because they're one of those teams.
Mm.
It's you they're going to be good because they're just like you said, the Packers, the Seahawks. They're constant floating around at the top for a long time with my Green Bay Packers. So I didn't care for them. So you're not wrong at all. And I think I saw it. I don't remember if you texted me or if you tweeted out something similar, but it's so true. And you don't really realize it until you really sit and think about it, like, and how we're talking about it right now. But they've fallen off a cliff since then. I haven't thought of the Giants in that same light in almost half a decade, almost.
Look, they were a team who you didn't want to play come playoff times, and not to bring up bad memories, but we would go into Green Bay and you guys did not want to play us. It was the good defensive line, good offensive line, but that's what happens with organizations when you have a good core. A lot of teams, what they shy away is they don't add to it, right? They don't add to it. Like here's an example. You're gonna laugh because this will be the last team you would fucking think of me mentioning as a perfect example for this. But look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had Calais Campbell, they had Yannick, and then number 7 overall, they take Josh Allen, who a lot of people I don't think realize. I thought he had a better year than Nick Bosa last year, but the Jaguars win what 4 games? I forgot what they won, and Nick Bosa goes all the way to the NFC. Well, they represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. So what did they do? They had Calais Campbell, they had Yannick, they had a good defensive line, but they add to their strength. The Giants, when they had good defensive lines and good offensive lines, they would try to find tight ends and running backs and linebackers, and then that falls apart. But when you look at the Giants with this injury to Saquon Barkley, it was by far the worst case scenario that could happen to them. They still haven't played. I think they've played 12 snaps with Barkley, Ingram, Shepard, Tate, and Slayton with Daniel Jones under center. And then Shepard is a revolving door of injuries. Ingram, oh my God, I am done with Evan Ingram, bro. I really thought he had a chance to put himself into that. It's Kittle, Kelsey, and then there's like the Ertz, Mark Andrews, maybe Hunter Henry, or no?
I feel like when he's kind of got the same issue though as
Yeah,
Evan Ingram.
yeah.
But I feel you.
And then Evan Ingram is in that mix too. Now, Saquon Barkley is 23 years old and he tears his ACL. He'll be 24 years old in February. I want to mention a couple of things. Cooper Kupp tore his ACL in 2018. Came back last year, 94 catches, 1,161 yards, 10 touchdowns. Most famously, Adrian Peterson tore his ACL 2011, week 17 against the Redskins. The Washington football team. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm reading from Sports Illustrated. So take your problems up with them. 2012 comes back, wins NFL MVP, 2,000 yards rushing. If there's a silver lining, I think it's this when it comes to the Saquon Barkley injury. It's not an ACL tear from even 10 years ago. Guys are coming back. Jordy Nelson came back off the ACL, had a monster year as well. It's an injury where it's not as bad as it once used to be, where it was like, oh, this guy is damaged goods, career's over. He'll be 24 years old. He'll have an entire year to rehab. Adrian Peterson actually got rushed back early. Dude, I remember I took him in the 3rd round of my fantasy league that year because people were like, oh, torn ACL. He's 28, 27, 28, around there. He's 35 now. So what is that, 8 years ago? Yeah, 27, 28. So it's not selling stock on Saquon Barkley. My concern is you're not going to be able to take advantage of Saquon Barkley being on the rookie deal that he is, as well as Daniel Jones, because Saquon's going to want to get paid going into next year. Now, what do you do if you're Saquon? Do you get franchised? Like, that's a whole different discussion. But
Mm-hmm.
I know I rambled a lot. Tell me your thoughts and how you feel about this Saquon Barkley injury.
I mean, from all the injuries that came out of this week, that one was kind of the one that had a resounding like hearts were heavy, just because he's special. Who doesn't love Saquon Barkley? I don't think he's done a mean thing to anyone in his life. He's probably never said a swear in his life. He's just a great kid, and like for my money, the best all-around running back in football.
Yeah.
However, what I will say is for the Giants this year, which probably would have been scuffed either way, to be honest, the way it's already starting. But I don't think it makes much of a difference. And I mean, that might seem a little extreme. I'm clearly part of the, running backs don't matter crowd. But behind that offensive line, you could put him back there, Barry Sanders, Frank Gore, my mom. It doesn't look like it's going to matter if the whole defensive line's in the backfield by the time he gets the handoff. You know what I mean? So I don't think this season it does a lot. I think it does more for what you said when it comes to contract stuff. I think, it throws a wrench in that whole thing. And then it's now he has an injury history and, running backs only have a certain shelf life anyway. So that's going to make that process more complicated. But for this year, I don't think it moves the needle all that much.
Yeah, and I agree with you. My expectations for the Giants this year was 6-10. And the only promising thing about them was that the offense had some potential to be fun, to be an offense that could put up some points, to be an offense that can, come back on teams and then maybe kind of like not close the door like what you saw yesterday against the Bears, right? Like they're down 17-3 and they made it to the 5-yard line with a chance to win it there. So they had a plethora of weapons. That's a bar, by the way. But they had a lot of guys that are going to be starting on your fantasy teams that are fun to watch, that are explosive, right? Slayton coming off that big Monday Night Football game. Like, I love Darius Slayton. Goes back to my big dilemma that I have with the Giants organization. You find a 5th-round gem in Slayton, but then there's a lot of like, what the F kind of decisions have these all been? So you're right. I couldn't agree with you more. My expectations for the Giants was they had a chance to be a top 5 to 8 offense. Even if it was going to be garbage time stuff, I get that. But there's 6 new starters on the defense. They're signing Logan Ryan 4 days before the Steeler game. So my expectations were low, but this was from a fan of the team and a fan of football. I thought this could have been a really interesting team, and now they're bringing in Devontae Freeman. Congrats.
Yeah.
Right? Deion Lewis, like, all right, cool, I guess. But that's the biggest bummer for me. He was one of those players that made it fun because when he was on, man, you're right. I thought he was the best when you take in everything into account, explosiveness out the backfield. Like, he caught 80 plus passes his rookie year. And then last year he caught like 60, but he was hobbled and it was a completely different offense when Daniel Jones came in. But, that's just how I felt about the Saquon injury.
Yeah, that's a good point that I didn't mention from a fan's perspective. If I'm thinking about it and I'm watching the Giants play, say the Jets, the only reason I'm watching that game, aside from maybe to just see what Daniel Jones shows, is I'm watching it to watch Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else there. So that it's a huge loss and a bummer in that way.